Hi, friends. This reflection is for the third Sunday of Lent. So, looking at this very deep reading from the Gospel of John, one may wonder is we're getting very deep with this one. And of course, let's face it, not only is the gospel deep, but wells are too. It's a deep subject. When you say well, pun intended. Okay, enough of dad jokes. Anyway, so I think what we see here from Jesus is that he does something that is bold. It's like Daniel in the lion's den. In this passage, friends, what I really like is that Jesus kind of breaks the ice. He goes into a territory that many have not done in a long time. There is a cultural taboo that we see here when Jesus goes to Samaria. And he goes to this well, and he has a woman give her something to drink. And we now understand how he felt after being in the desert for 40 days. I think also, too, what we have to understand is that Jesus, being Jewish, is engaging with someone that that is like of a different culture as well. The Samaritan woman, we like to say. Now, let's go back a little bit here. People seem to not understand that Samaritans and Jews, they don't get along very well, especially during this time period because the Samaritans broke off and formed their own little thing, and they feuded over the years. It's no wonder the rabbi didn't stop to lend help to the robber that was a pulp away from death. Now, honestly, if we look at this reading that is so deep, deeper than wells, I think what we have to understand is that the message that we get is loud and clear. Jesus takes the time to listen to this woman, to listen to what her problems are, what is on her mind. And Jesus, in turn, gives her advice to do this, do that. And let's face it, I think what we can take from for this Sunday's reading is that many of us carry wounds. Many of us have things that are on our minds. And we have to, we have to share them with others. Now, let's face it. There are times like we have to be a listening ear to others, just as Jesus was to the Samaritan woman. We have to be attentive to others without, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. I remember going to Stations of the Cross recently, and in one of the reflections when we were doing the Stations of the Cross, I believe it's from Sirach, in which it talks about what a friend is. And along those lines, about the sturdy shelter. If anyone wants to fact check me, that's fine. But anyway, what what a definition of a good friendship is that we must be willing to be that listening ear to others, be willing to help them when they go through this spiritual dryness. And there's no question in my mind that this Samaritan woman was going through some kind of spiritual dryness. And it's kind of metamorphic, that she's at a well, and same thing with Jesus, and Jesus wanted something to drink, and this Samaritan woman was thirsting for something that is good, thirsting for Jesus. And of course, Jesus reveals himself to her. And I think, in a sense, many of us thirst. St. Teresa of Calcutta has a two-word phrase. And if you've ever been to a convent run by the Missionaries of Charity, they always have the two words, I thirst. And it's basically based on an entry written by St. Teresa of Calcutta. But it goes back also to the Passion, in which Jesus hung on the cross and he was, he basically needed something to drink because he went through a long period of time without water, especially when he was being beaten, spit upon, mocked, a holy victim for us. Friends, just as Jesus is the bread of life, Jesus gives us the water in which we shall never thirst. And that water that we thirst is Him. He quenches our thirst, let alone the fact that He satisfies our hungry heart. It is through Jesus that we should never hunger and we should never thirst. How is that so? Plain simply, the only bread that Jesus lived on is the Word of God. And we too can do the same. Now, granted, we do have to nourish our food, and, you know, humans live, I think, a month without food before they're dead. Whereas if your body doesn't, replenish with water within a week, you'll die of dehydration. Now, honestly, I don't know about you, but I'll be more scared about water at this point, especially with this topic. But I digress. Friends, I think if there's one thing we could take away from this passage, let's be attentive to others. Do you have a wound? Did someone hurt you? It's time to forgive them. It's time to unite our sufferings and our dryness to Jesus Himself. Have a blessed third week of Lent. God bless.